What's doing, everybody? Today is Tuesday, June 24th. Israel and Iran both break the ceasefire. Trump is dropping F-bombs. I got Dinesh D'Souza joining me on the podcast. I'm Alec Lace. This is the Alec Lace Show.
The American family is under attack. Parents are the underdog of this nation. Your children are being indoctrinated. That's right. Your children. They do not belong to the state. They do not belong to the school system. They belong to you, the parents, as a blessing from God our Father. So let's preserve, protect, and fight for the American family together. You're listening to the Alec Lace Show. The future is family.
All right, welcome everybody to the Alec Lace Show. I'm happy and honored as always to be here with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching the broadcast as it streams live on Rumble, please share the broadcast on all your socials. Get involved in the chat. Don't forget to follow the channel no matter where you're listening to. A lot of breaking news. The cycle now seems to be shifting constantly here with between Israel and Iran. Trump obviously pulling off this amazing operation Midnight Hammer to wipe out the nuclear capabilities of Iran, hitting 3 targets. And it goes to show that there's levels to this game, right? There are levels to this game of military action and military might, and Trump put that on display for the world to see, because you all, have been watching and hearing this, that we had these B-2 bombers that flew from Missouri over Iran airspace, undetected, dropped a payload on a nuclear facility, and at the same time, 400 miles away, in a submarine fired missiles that hit these other nuclear facilities, and all of our guys got out before anybody even knew what the hell hit them. So not a single American harmed during the operation, a complete success for President Donald Trump. And something that normally you would all applaud a great job, the troops and what they did, but you can't have that because everyone has to hate President Donald Trump. Coming from within our own party, the Republican Party, you now have a split in the MAGA party. The Democrats are going to do everything they can to undermine him anyway, and the mainstream media is going to attack him. But the mission was a success. And then leading to this ceasefire that President Donald Trump has brokered between Iran and Israel, both seem to agree to it. And then you had, as soon as they agreed to it, Israel launches missiles. Trump was pissed off about that. And then in retaliation, Iran fires missiles at them. And then the actual ceasefire hits, and it starts. And then Iran fires, I believe it's a single lone missile or rocket that goes nowhere, and then Israel unloads on Iran. Trump not happy about it all. He talked out before heading to the Netherlands this morning. He was dropping the F-bomb, showing his frustration, but also, being bad at both parties here, saying that both are at fault. So here is the quick clip of him this morning addressing this.
That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace. Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
All right, so Trump really not taking sides there, just basically telling both of these countries now, knock it off. It's all over. Let's get to the ceasefire part of this, and that should be it. Now, you do have, it seems like you have to have people, every time there's something that goes against what Trump says, there has to be people online that are celebrating, knocking him down, and we expect that from the left. We expect it from the liberals and from the mainstream media, which Trump absolutely torched this morning, as well as you heard. All right, the CNN, which are scum, he said, MSNBC, he took a shot there at the owner of that fake news network. But we know that. The problem is coming from within our own party that is trying to undermine Trump now. And, it's the people that almost seem like just about as dramatic as some of the liberals with the, oh, I wish I never voted for Trump. I want to take my vote back. This isn't what I voted for. It's like you have to listen to these people now starting to have mental breakdowns. And of course, it's all over this theory that Trump has Israel's interests first over America's, which I would think is complete and utter BS. Now, President Donald Trump is going over to the Netherlands now. They got the NATO thing going on over there. This is still going to be playing out. We'll see exactly how much further it goes. But the people that were kind of saying oh, this is going to lead us to World War III. Trump now is a pro-war president, and it couldn't be further from the truth. President Donald Trump is anti-war. Now that doesn't mean he's anti-military action. He has to take some military action, and he does. He's done it with precision. He's done it calculated. We saw that in his first term when he took out Soleimani. This is exactly the response. Look at what I just laid out to you what America pulled off, right? With the B-2 bombers and the submarine. We all seen what happened. Iran's response was to telegraph a couple of 6 missiles at an empty base in Qatar. I mean, that's why I say there's levels to this. Iran knows they're going to say, okay, we're going to punch back to make sure we don't hurt, we don't require a response. The last thing Iran wants is for the U.S. to actually bring a full might response to it because we would cripple them, and they know that. The regime knows that. This isn't a guy looking to get into a 20-year war. This isn't a guy looking to occupy Iran. This is a guy that, if tested, will come over there and obliterate your entire regime, your entire military capabilities, and then leave. And they understand that. And that is the difference here. Now, of course, we've all been, and myself included, we get flashbacks to the weapons of mass destruction, which brought us into a 20-year war, cost us trillions of dollars, thousands of American lives that are still to this day dying as a result of that 20-year war. I know we have the military suicides are at an alarming rate. So we have a lot of complications from this 20-year war that we were involved in. But to suggest that President Trump is somehow now pro-war, I think is disingenuous. And so I have Dinesh D'Souza coming on the podcast in just a bit here, and we're going to break all of this down because it has changed completely. And I think he's one of the best in the business to do it. But I do think what needs to happen is we do need to have, and I would love to do it on this show, I'll try to reach out to some of these major influencers that we have to get them together to debate the issues rather than throwing nukes at one another on X. And really, that's what they've been doing. They've been tearing each other down, and it's not really helping anybody. I don't understand the point. I don't understand what the point is of saying, oh, I wish I never voted for President Donald Trump. You have some of these people that are saying, oh, this is why I wish I didn't vote for him. What was your alternative here? What alternative reality are you living in here? You hope that Kamala Harris won the election and that we still had an open border? I understand you might not like what's happening. That's perfectly normal. Debate the issue of it rather than just go on and attack people that are Trump supporters and trying to argue over who's more MAGA than who. And that's what we have. We have a little a measuring match happening of who is more MAGA than who. I'm more MAGA than you. That's what we're basically seeing. Oh, I'm America first. You're not America first. And everyone's ended up arguing like little children on X over this stuff. And it's getting tiring to watch it. So what we want is we want, number one, our American military to remain safe. We don't want to see any of our troops harmed. President Donald Trump wants that as well. But there was this other piece that came up with it's unconstitutional. That was what the Democrats ran with. Democrat lawmakers came right out saying, oh, what President Trump did, unconstitutional. You had Thomas Massey. Oh, unconstitutional. So the people that all hated Trump, which you can disagree with President Donald Trump wiping out the nuclear facilities, or you can agree with it. But you can't throw out, oh, it's unconstitutional. Because that makes you look like an idiot. And especially the people on the left who, and it's funny because I put this meme up that did over 2 million views on X, just showing how stupid the left is with this stuff. Because Barack Obama in 2016 alone dropped over 26,000 bombs without Congress approval. Nothing, and President Donald Trump dropped 6. And then 30 missiles. And it's, oh, my God, it's unconstitutional what he did. Look at what he's doing. Obama bombed like 7 different countries over there. And so there was, it's funny, too, because I put the other one up because it's like Barack Obama, he deported way more people than Trump. Way more of the people he deported got no due process whatsoever. More than 75% of the 5 million that he deported got no due process whatsoever. They called him the deporter-in-chief. He bombed way more people than President Donald Trump did. He dropped more than 100,000 bombs, right, during his 8 years. You could call him the Obama in chief, right? The Obama. That works. Obama or deporter in chief. Either one of those. But he deported more people than Trump, dropped more bombs than Trump, and he's the greatest president of all time, according to the left. So you can't figure that out. But that's the truth. And so it's like forgetting about what has happened is hard to do. And I understand the argument of the 2 points here. One, we don't want it to be like Iraq with the weapons of mass destruction, and we end up getting sucked in to a war for 20 years. The other part is we don't want to see us try to get involved in a regime change where we have done this unsuccessfully with so many of these other countries, whether it be with Gaddafi or Assad or Saddam Hussein. We don't want to see that happen. Now, do we want to see the regime change in Iran? Yes. Do we want to be a part of a regime change? No. So that is the major difference between that. And Trump hinting at that with a post online. When he put out, I don't want to say the politically incorrect word of regime change because he knows what that's going to do. People are going to take, which they did on the inside the MAGA party. Look, Trump is calling now to have us go in there and change the regime, which is not what he said. And I think what Trump tried to, or would be logical here, is that the people who do want regime change that live in Iran, that are tired of this regime that has been oppressive to them, hopefully get a chance to rise up and throw these people out. All right, so let's do this now. I got my friend Dinesh D'Souza, one of the best in the biz. I've been listening to Dinesh. If you've never seen him debate, you can watch some of these debates that he did years ago on YouTube. He's such a phenomenal debater, but he's also an awesome author. I've read most of his books. I've seen all of his documentaries. He puts together a great documentary. He's a well-thought-out author, and he's a great commentator, too. So he's got the Dinesh D'Souza podcast that he does 5 days a week. I got the link to that down in the description below. And he's a lot of times I go to him because he brings so much clarity to so many of these issues, so many of these points. So it's awesome to get his take on all of it. I'd have him on all the time if I could. It's very difficult sometimes to get him. I've been blessed to have him on quite a few times. He's one of my favorites and one of the best. So, again, the Dinesh D'Souza podcast, I got the link to it down in the description below. I'm going to bring him on now, and let's get into some of this stuff that's been breaking here.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm at the White House with my dad, and you're watching The Alec Lay Show.
You're listening to The Alec Lay Show. The future is family.
All right, joining me now, best-selling author, filmmaker, and host of the Dinesh D'Souza podcast, 5 days a week. Link down in the description below. Dinesh D'Souza, welcome back to The Alec Lay Show.
Alec, it's always a pleasure. Great to be with you.
Yeah, the news cycle has been shifting so quick. I wanted to get you yesterday when all things were different here. So we had, World War III imminent. Then we had a ceasefire. Now we have Trump dropping F-bombs. So What do you make here of this latest, the ceasefire deal, and then who broke this thing? Trump says both to blame. How do you make out what's happening right now where we are?
I think, quite honestly, that the ceasefire issue is a bit of a sideshow. The big news here is the crippling of the Iranian nuclear facilities. That was a huge decision by Trump, the biggest foreign policy decision of his presidency, including the previous one, by the way, and took enormous courage and also flawless execution. So that, I think, is going to be one for the history books. Now, the ceasefire is, I think, Trump's way of saying, I'm not going here to remake the society. I'm not exporting democracy. I'm not doing any of that. This is a go in and go out. And that's the big lesson, by the way, of the U.S. operation in Afghanistan, going back to the aftermath of 9/11, probably also Iraq. Those operations would have turned out totally differently had we gone in and gone out. So I think Trump is making very clear that that is his way of doing things. And of course, the ceasefire would be like a nice way to tie the whole thing into a bow. But there are 10 ways to break a ceasefire, right? It goes into effect at midnight, but it's midnight Eastern time, not Central time. Wait, it's not midnight over here yet. Or they lobbed a missile 5 seconds before, so we're not going to just let that go. We got to send one 5 seconds after. So this sort of stuff is going to go on, and I don't even think it matters all that much. Now, Trump has, in fact, gotten basically on the line with Netanyahu, who's basically said, all right, we're done, we're out. So I think the ceasefire will, in fact, have some measure of legitimacy. But again, I'm not going to lose any sleep over the ceasefire. If those two countries want to continue to exchange some blows, no big deal. The mission, as I say, has been accomplished.
Well said. And I think here's the thing, Dinesh. You have so many people from both sides, from inside the MAGA party, and it's basically saying, and it's flashbacks from everybody. Everyone has the same gun shy from weapons of mass destruction. So people seeing this as a similar undertone. We were told weapons of mass destruction, there were none. And it led us into this long escalated war. Now we're telling people, hey, Iran has the nuclear weapon. But to think that Trump now all of a sudden changed his tune and wants to become a person that gets involved in a 20-year war, I think is ridiculous. He's never been that guy. It has been, as you said, he wants to get in, get out, accomplish the mission, and that's it. This isn't Trump looking for a boots on the ground occupation and overthrow the government, as you say.
Yeah, I think that one of the problems is that we draw lessons from history, and the lessons of history are ambiguous because the situation is different, right? So Iran is not Iraq. And I don't just mean that they're two different countries. I mean that Iraq is a country that even under Saddam was kind of a regional bully. Iran is a global ideological power, right? Iran has global aspirations. It's got this revolutionary ideology that is the heart of the regime. That's a key difference. The second key difference is that Trump is not George W. Bush. Big difference. And a third difference is that the WMDs in Iraq were, well, as it turns out, fictional. But Iran did, in fact, have nuclear facilities, and they were, in fact, moving with enrichment. And so that was not imaginary, that was real. And so one of the problems with taking all your lessons from one place and not in another, because, hey, look, we say today things like, preemptive war is a bad idea. And in general, it probably is. But one of Winston Churchill's points in World War II is that there was not enough preemption, right? The Nazis are building a massive war machine. Britain and France are sitting on their hands doing nothing. Had they preemptively built up their own defenses, World War II might have been able to be averted. So you can get different lessons from different wars, and you've got to be very careful in how you interpret these lessons.
And it does seem like, the peace through strength is what Trump preaches, and he has been preaching since predating, him running for the first term. There's a strength piece of this. It doesn't mean that it may sound like if Trump is going to announce to the world, we're never going to take military action ever. So what signal does that send to anybody there? I think also, too, by him doing this and being able to fly these B-2 bombers right over their facilities and get out undetected sends a strong message to the rest of the world, too. Like, wow, they were able to pull this thing off. Nobody even knew about it. They didn't get one person harmed. That's the strength part of the peace through strength, correct?
Exactly. The reverberations of this are far and wide. I mean, think of something a few days from now, there will be a meeting in Rio de Janeiro between these BRICS nations, right? So Russia will be there, China, Iran, India, Brazil, and all these countries were kind of happily cooking up an alternative currency to the dollar. But now I think you're going to see some of these countries, Brazil, India, go, we don't really know if we want to be in this BRICS deal over here. You know, we'd rather line up with the winners and be with the United States. And so I think that this has turned out to be truly America first in its widest application. See, there's the debate in the MAGA movement is not over America first, but whether America first should be interpreted narrowly by drawing a kind of cordon around our own border, or interpreted more widely to realize, hey, listen, we know we function in a world, we have allies, we have enemies, we have people sitting on the fence, and what we do is going to affect the world.
Right, and so, and the one faction of MAGA is of the, whatever you want to call it, the break between the Republican influencers online, is that we're not doing things to protect America first, we're doing things to protect Israel first, and that is the argument that is coming from one side. The other side, obviously, the Trump loyalists that are saying Trump is America first. He defines the party. So what is your reaction to these people on the left that are saying Trump is not acting in America's interest first, he's acting in Israel's interest first?
Well, there's a funny difference of opinion here between the MAGA, this MAGA wing you're talking about, and Iran. And here's what I mean. The MAGA wing thinks that the little Satan, Israel, is controlling the big Satan, us. The Iranians, of course, think the opposite. They think that the big Satan, us, are controlling the little Satan. So who's right? Well, Iran is right. Why? Take what we're talking about today, which is the ceasefire. Who's controlling whom? Right now, if Israel had its way, Israel would continue to be pummeling Iran. Israel has every national interest in ending that regime. That regime has been a plague and a monster really for 50 years. And Israel has the ability, they have a window of opportunity, they may not get it again. And so that's their interest. That's what Netanyahu wants to do. Who's stopping him? Trump. So who's calling the shots here? Netanyahu is reluctantly acceding to Trump and not the other way around. So I think that Israel has a lot of influence. I don't deny the influence of, say, AIPAC. I think that influence can be exaggerated. Remember in the Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz interview, Ted Cruz actually, even though people thought, oh, Tucker really got him, Ted Cruz made a couple of really powerful points. And one of them was, if Israel really controls the U.S. Congress, how come they don't control the Democratic Party? How come the Democratic Party has allowed the Ilhans and Rashida Tlaib and all these jihadis to take center stage? Why didn't AIPAC just say, hey, listen, we own you guys. You know what? You're going to side with us regardless of what your voters think. No, AIPAC was not powerful enough to be able to do that. So these are some of the counterpoints that are worth keeping in mind.
And I think there's some truth to all of it, but there's the extreme. They take it to the extreme, especially the World War III people. But it's like you have also, too, you have the neocons, the warmongers that are in here. You have the media, which Trump just really lambasted this morning. I mean, you're calling them scum, the CNN. You have, it almost reminds me of yesterday, Iran state media was telling their people it obliterated our base over there. And they showed footage, whether it was true or not, of Iranian people like waving flags and stuff. But it's very similar to our own media here, telling our own people the wrong thing to give them in misdirection. And it's happening time and time again. So you can't listen to what the mainstream media says. You have the Democrats that no matter what Trump does, they have to automatically denounce it. And then you have a fraction within his own party that is going after. So it's like, it seems like everything coming after Trump in this direction, but he's standing firm in who he is, what he believes in, and he's not backing down. And that's why he seems to be the greatest person for this moment in time right here.
The Democrats and the media are operating on the same sheet music, right? And it was really fun to watch them because they were really praying that the attack would be a failure. In fact, they were reporting, we don't really know if the Iranian facilities were, and then someone comes up and goes, well, yeah, they were. And then you can see the disappointment on the face of these guys, or even the ceasefire. Well, the ceasefire is really not going to happen. No, Iran never said they agreed to it. Actually, Iran said they agreed to it. And then again, you see this dejection as if to say that, they just, as if their day just got really worse. So that's all very predictable. I think Trump is playing those guys beautifully. Now, you are right that on the MAGA side, you do have a couple of extremes. And one of them is, I think, resolutely pushing for regime change in Iran. Now, I have to confess, I'm a little closer to that camp in the sense that I would like to see regime change in Iran, but I don't think we should be the instruments of doing it. So I agree with the goal, but I don't agree with the means. By contrast, you have the kind of World War III crowd, and if those guys had their way, we would not have launched this mission. In fact, they were, in a sense, trying to almost, you could say, browbeat Trump into not doing it by saying, we're the real MAGA. And Trump sort of had to put him in line by saying, actually, guess what? I came up with this whole idea, not you. And so I kind of get to say what it means. You don't have to be on the MAGA train, but I am MAGA and not, Bannon or whoever it is. So I think Trump has, in a sense, maintained not just a resolute consistency, but Trump has done the right thing here. And I think we are seeing the fruits of it. And I think you're going to begin to see that the kind of reluctant MAGA guys all now kind of sidling onto Trump's wagon and basically rewriting history, pretending like they never really said what they did. So this is part of what we're going to see over the next, I think, few weeks.
It seems very reminiscent of when a lot of the Trump supporters broke off and started supporting Ron DeSantis and started to push that. And then all of a sudden, when he got knocked out, then they all started to kind of all come back into the fold and, forget, like, have amnesia that they didn't campaign for the other guy, which is fine. I mean, listen, open debate is good, but it's when you have the drama queens that are starting, I wish I never voted for Trump. I take back my vote. It's like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, have the debate. And I think more of the MAGA move, like we saw with Trump, Tucker and Ted Cruz. I believe we need a lot more of that in the MAGA movement. I think we need more conversation, civil discourse, rather than debating the liberals who have lost touch with reality anyway. I think we need more of that debate within our own party.
The other thing is, I think, Trump is such a unique guy. I've said before, when God made Trump, he really threw away the mold. I mean, look at his post today where he's calling on the Israelis as they leave Iran to do what he calls, quote, a plane wave. Now, I mean, nobody else would say that, right? I mean, you can imagine a President Rubio or a President J.D. Vance. We're just not going to see this again, right? So, to my view, we have the greatest comedian of all the presidents. He's in the White House. We might as well enjoy it while it lasts, because it isn't going to last forever.
Yeah, we're never going to get this guy again. And last thing, let me just switch to the topic here, Dinesh, because I know I got to get you out of here. The U.S. Supreme Court was a big ruling for Trump, allowing him now to deport these violent criminals to any country that'll accept them again, which is what we were doing, whether they go to Sudan or El Salvador, wherever it is. Now the Supreme Court gets it. But we have the Democrats playing this political theater like we saw with the Alex or Jose Padilla putting on the show, constantly grandstanding. And it just seems like the majority of the people in the country, when polled, are for what Trump is doing with these illegal immigrants getting deported. So you have the Supreme Court now siding with him, but you have the federal judges and the Democrats grandstanding against President Donald Trump. So what's your take on it?
I think that a lot of times when these decisions come down, we should look at the incentives. And here's what I mean. If I were a criminal illegal and I follow the news, what would I be thinking right now? Well, I'd be thinking, look, I really don't want to end up like, in Sudan or El Salvador, with Bukele breathing down my neck. I'm going to get out of here. It's a little bit like what happened when the federal government started going after Harvard, right? Harvard puts up a big, we're going to find a local judge in Boston. None of it matters. Why? Because if I were an international student at Harvard, I'm going to say, well, look, some local judge may uphold it, but it could be reversed by an appellate court to the Supreme Court. My position at Harvard is insecure. I think I'm going to transfer to MIT or Caltech. So those forces are already in motion. I think the greatest benefit of this Supreme Court decision is it's going to increase the pace of the self-deportation of illegal aliens, of criminal aliens.
Yeah, and that's great because, like you said, now you have the opportunity, and he's offering you a way to get money to do this, to pay for the flight. I mean, the incentive is there, and you look at the alternative, which is you could end up in the Sudan by mistake, or you could end up there indefinitely. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer. But that's the other part of this from the MAGA movement saying these deportations aren't happening fast enough. But you have to argue that it would be if you didn't have these federal activist judges in the way, and you didn't have the mainstream media lighting fires underneath all the people, and you see them now protesting these anti-ICE raids. You have all these, and it seems very reminiscent of the BLM, where they're organized people coming from out of state, and they're all having these anti-ICE protests, and that's not helping the effort either, and the optics of it, despite the fact that Obama deported many more people than Trump without any due process at all.
Yeah, there's some people in the MAGA camp who say, well, I didn't vote for this stuff going on with Israel, or I didn't vote for that. I voted for deportations. But, all presidents have to deal with foreign and domestic policy. It's not the case that if you do one, you can't do the other. And the truth of it is that Obama was doing his aggressive best to get Iran across the nuclear threshold. That was the point of all those pallets of money. So, we voted for Trump to be the anti-Obama, to undo Obama's remaking, not just of America, but also of the world. I mean, the Arab Spring, the subsidies to Iran, that was part of a very conscious Obama policy. And I think Trump very consciously has set out to undo it.
Yeah, wow, great point, Dinesh. All right, let me get you out of here. What do you got coming up on the Dinesh D'Souza or Dinesh D'Souza? Now I got all tongue tied here. Dinesh D'Souza show this week.
Well, I'm just going to talk. Well, today I'm going to talk really about revolution, right? Because the Iranian people here are feeling a little bit left in the lurch because you come so close to overthrowing the government, and then if there's a pullback, there's a ceasefire, what's going to happen? Well, the regime is going to strengthen itself again over time, and the opportunity will be lost. But see, here's the problem. I remember I came to this country in 1978 while the Iranian Revolution was brewing. Wide swaths of Iranian society united in pushing out the Shah, welcoming the revolution. And one of the age-old articles of conservative wisdom going back to Edmund Burke, be very careful what you wish for, right? Revolution is a dangerous business. You want to get rid of the bad guy, you may very well end up with the worst guy. And see how hard it is now, even 50 years later, to untie the knot that you made.
Yeah. Awesome. So I got the link to your podcast down there in the description below. I love that you have your wife come on the show all the time. And listen, you got a beautiful family. You're one of my favorites from way back before I started doing this politics thing anyway. But I've had your son-in-law on the show now several times as a congressman. I think he's one of the best young congressmen we have in there right now. I love just watching the clips of him engaging with them online. I mean, he's very sharp, Brandon Gill. And I think he's one of the best we have in there. Give me a quick take on him, if you could, before we get out of here.
Well, I mean, as a family, we're very proud of him, and he's the youngest GOP congressman in the country, and he has developed his own kind of unique, simple cross-examining style. So many of these GOP guys, you have 5 minutes to ask questions. They go on a major filibuster about, I will not rest until this happens and that happens. And Brandon Gill just, basically goes, do you believe that white supremacy is the greatest plague that faces our nation? Do you want to take every white person and throw them out of a window like you tweeted 2 years ago? It just puts these people up against the wall and they don't know how to respond.
Yeah, a lot of fun to watch. Dinesh D'Souza, I got the link to your podcast down in the description below. Always grateful for your time. Thanks for joining me today on the Alec Show.
My pleasure.
All right, grateful to Dinesh D'Souza for giving me a few minutes of his time here. What you guys think about the interview? Hit me with a comment down below. I got the link to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. I was trying to say Dinesh D'Souza show, and that was giving me a little bit of a tongue twister there. Dinesh D'Souza podcast. The link is down there in the description below. He's very poised and very calm in his response, very calculated in what he says. So it's always awesome to get him on there. And if you enjoy him, I mean, obviously, you guys probably all know who he is. Many of you probably listen to his show, but I'm a big fan of his, and I think he does. He's a great follow on X as well. So grateful to Dinesh D'Souza for joining me on the podcast. And I do think that he makes up so many great points. And as far as inside of the MAGA movement, it's like it's possible for you to disagree with something that Trump does without having to just go overboard. I mean, there are people that are in the party that pretend to be Trump supporters. and they're not. And that's the difference, I think, here is like you have people that in their core privately hate President Donald Trump, but their public appearance is, oh, I'm a Trump guy. I'm for President Donald Trump. This way, in public, they can get the appraisal of the MAGA movement. It's good for your influence. It's good for your business. But privately, I think that they hate President Donald Trump. And those kind of get flushed out in moments like this, which is one of the good parts about this, which was, like I said to Dinesh, is similar to when we had Ron DeSantis. So it's like when Ron DeSantis ran against Trump and you had all these people that you thought were pro-Trump people or like, all the way with Trump, all of a sudden left and were throwing their weight behind DeSantis, it made you scratch your head and go, wait a minute, why in the world would you do something like that unless you really don't like President Donald Trump? There's nobody that's pro-Trump all the way that decided to go and campaign or support Ron DeSantis. But we had an opportunity then to see who these people really were. And then after the Ron DeSantis, got buried, those people filtered back into the MAGA movement. Many of them now are on the same side you could see again going after Trump. But we already expect that. But there's some of the other ones that have been with Trump for such a long time that all of a sudden came out, I wish I never voted for him. So those are the ones that now that we are discovering that are, and you know who they are. I mean, I don't want to accuse these influencers of it. If you're following on X, if you're following what's going on, you know who these players are. And, and again, you could disagree. Listen, when it comes to my greatest grievance with President Donald Trump is COVID-19 vaccine. I mean, that's cut and dry. I mean, there's not a question about that. I do not agree with him on that. But then again, President Donald Trump wasn't a mandator of the vaccine. He never forced anybody to take it. He didn't shut any businesses down for it. He didn't kick anybody out of the military for it. So it's obviously he's not the one that did all of that, but he did promote and considers the vaccine to be a success. And I would disagree with that. So there are, it's not as if like you can't support Trump if you don't agree with every single thing that he says and does. That's not the case either. And nobody inside that's a true Trump supporter wants to see America at war. We don't want that. And again, there's a peace through strength portion of this, and the strength has to be exercised once in a while. And now going back to the 90s, every single one of these presidents has been saying, from Bill Clinton, Iran can't get a nuclear weapon. We're going to stop them from getting it. Bush, same thing. The other hump, Obama, same thing. Biden, same thing. Trump, stopped them from getting it. So somebody somewhere along the line was eventually going to have to do this. Trump did it. And I think the world is better for it. But you have some of the influencers like, no, he should never take any military action ever. And if he does, he's a warmonger and a pro-war and a neocon and everything else. If he takes any military action at all. It's almost like they say, we want a show about nothing. It's like a Seinfeld thing. When it comes to military action, we want a show about nothing. So that sounds great. Let's tell everybody around the world that for the next 4 years, we're not going to take, no matter what happens, we're going to take no military action whatsoever. What kind of signal does that give to the world? Trump is not that stupid. The threat has to be there. It's almost like parenting in a way. You have to have a threat, but you have to be willing to follow through on the threat. You have to have the threat of the punishment. And then if they cross the line, you have to come through with the punishment. It's the same thing what Trump's doing. He has to show might and say, hey, you step out of line, and here we're coming to get you. And then if they step out of line and you don't, then now you look like you walk right over you. And Trump's not going to allow that to happen. And I do believe that like Russia, China, they also don't think for a second that they're not watching what Trump just did and saying, oh, okay, they can do this. It's not like a small feat what the United States military just pulled off. I mean, these B-2 bomber guys were flying for 36 hours straight to fly in there undetected and synchronize it with a submarine firing rockets from 400 miles away, and everything, hit their targets, and they got the hell out of there, and not a shot fired at them. I mean, there's not many military countries on the planet that could pull that off, if any, other than us. And so I think it kind of gives an opportunity to put on display a touch, give the world a little glimpse of our military capabilities, and I think that's a good thing too for deterrence, which is part of the peace through strength slogan for President Donald Trump. And when it comes to who is MAGA, if you're not a Trump, if you don't support President Trump, then you're not MAGA. Trump is the MAGA movement. Trump is the America First man. And so who are the biggest losers? The biggest loser, I think, out of all of this was Alex Padilla, right? Alex Padilla was putting on such a show. He was melting down over tried to rush the stage with Kristi Noem and was arrested for it, which he got what he wanted. That was the political stunt that he was pulling. He wanted that footage of him being arrested. He got it. He went on and on, crying over it. And then Vice President J.D. Vance calls him Jose instead of Alex Padilla, and he had another mental breakdown in front of the cameras. He's crying. He's insulted. Everybody, oh my God, look at what they did to this poor man. They called him Jose. And then all of a sudden, Trump pulled off this Operation Midnight Hammer, and that was the end of Padilla in the news cycle, and he had to be so disappointed. But what's interesting is, and I wanted to kind of finish up on this point, was that all of the stuff that was coming at me online has finally died down. And gratefully, you had, and I'm referring to where they took a screenshot. I addressed this last week on the show, where they took a screenshot of one of my X posts out of context from the full post to try to make it look, and it worked. They tried to make it look as if I was calling for political violence. And so many people took the bait because Adam Kinzinger posted it on his page. This guy, Brian Tyler Conan, or whatever his name, posted it on his page. And so it caught a lot of momentum. This thing went super viral. I'm getting all kinds of people blowing up all of my social medias, blowing up my emails. They go to my book on Amazon. They write all these nasty reviews, 1-star reviews. They go to my podcast on Apple Podcasts and leave all these 1-star reviews. Oh, this guy threatened violence against the Democrats, which was all bullshit. And it's almost, when it gets rolling downhill like that, it's almost impossible to stop it. And the people that started it will never come out and apologize and say, oh, yeah, you know what, I was wrong, because they knew they were wrong in the beginning. They did it to stoke their base, which it works, because these people are already under the impression that MAGA are Nazis. They call for violence, which is all false. So it's almost like when they find something, they have to latch onto it. Well, they latched onto me, and I'm going to tell you the truth. It had to be the slowest news cycle for 48 hours when this thing went viral. I mean, not a single thing happened. It was like Trump. It was like, okay, everything is quiet right now. Nothing changed. There was a pause. Trump gave Iran seemingly 2 weeks. We didn't know about the attack. But for like 48 hours, nothing changed. And it was like this thing just kept festering. And so finally, a few of the fact-checking sites, most importantly Snopes, which is a far-left fact-checking site, but the main one, I would think, like if you Google fact-checking site, it's the number one that comes up. It's the go-to one. And they finally put out and addressed the issue that, no, I did not call, obviously, for political violence. They showed how the post was taken out of context. They said exactly what I meant, which was that it was done by the Democrats to silence any other Democrats from voting against their own party, which is what Hortman did. So anyway, the minute it got posted, I'm telling you, very shortly after, that is when we find out that Trump goes in and hits the nuclear site. So it was like, here comes my, to prove me right, and then boom, the whole news cycle shifted. So the timing of it was comical to see. But it is frustrating to be attacked specifically for something that you didn't do. And I see that happening to President Donald Trump constantly, and so that's why I draw inspiration from him through all of that. And the other thing is, I wanted to hit on real quick here too. And anyway, by the way, I just want to say thank you to all the people who have supported me through that, have seen it online, who were, trying to go after some of these lunatics that were obviously out of their minds and were crazy. But I appreciate your love and appreciate your support because it does matter. And it is, these people are unhinged. They come at you with all this craziness and think they're in the right, and they're lunatics. But I did want to touch on, last thing here was that Simone Biles, now this is far away from where we are here with the Iran, Israel, and the whole bit, but Simone Biles deleted her X account after this exchange that played out with Riley Gaines. And what possessed Simone Biles to that one day just go on Twitter and decide to pick a fight with Riley Gaines? What did she think she was going to gain from doing that? So it all started because she called out Riley Gaines for protecting. It was about that kid, that boy who was competing in the state championships in California and won, the state championships and won all the tournaments and stuff. And Riley Gaines calling it out, which is right. This should never have happened. But Simone Biles decided to attack Riley Gaines for that, and then body shame her. And it was like, why would you do that? And so basically Simone Biles was sticking up for men who are playing in women's sports, and she was sticking up for men in women's locker rooms. And it was like, what a bizarre take to have. And then to go after Riley Gaines' appearance because of her body and because she looks like a man, she's too tall. It was very, very bad PR for her. Then she had the chat bot try to write an apology, which sounded nothing like it came from her. It was brutally done. If you read any of her posts and then read that one, you could see either a lawyer wrote it or a chat GTP bot wrote it. And it was bad. And her own fans started to attack her online. It was relentless because why in the world would you come out as one of the strongest female athletes icons in the world and advocate for men to come play in the sports when you yourself are on film saying, good thing I didn't have to compete against a man because they would destroy us. Not so many, not word for word, but basically what she said in tweets and in person. So it made no sense. And so now she deleted her account. And, it's that I don't really think that helps anything either. You would rather it be more for, again, get on and have a debate. Why doesn't she, I would love to see her and Riley Gaines have a conversation on a podcast about this stuff. We have the capability of doing this. It's not very difficult to set up an interview. I think more people need to do it rather than the 280 character assassinations on X. And I think we would benefit so much for it. Let me hear what you're thinking about this. Not what your PR person is telling you to say, but what you personally think about it. And I think Simone Biles knows she's wrong. Obviously, that's why she deleted her X account. But the good part of this, I think, is that it's Pride Month, and I think most people have forgotten that. Which is good, too. I mean, it's like we've all been sick and tired of the whole thing being shoved down our throats. I think we've seen a lot of wins as far as men not being allowed to compete in women's sports, but we're not there yet. We're not out of the woods with all of it, and it still needs to be drawn attention to. That's why I think it's important to highlight what's going on here with Simone Biles and Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines, one of the biggest activists, biggest champions for women and girls in our country, and I'm grateful to have her out there in the fight. All right, so we're going to keep an eye on this Israel-Iran. That's the main focus point here. We don't know, Trump wants the ceasefire, but as Dinesh said, the damage is done. Now, this is what has to happen now is I never want to hear about Iran having nuclear weapons again. I mean, that has to be over, which is wondering, why is this? If Israel, when they first started bombing Iran, saying we're not going to stop until they can't have nukes, the U.S. just took away that threat. Why are you still bombing Iran? So I don't want to hear any more about the Iran nuclear threat. This was a direct hit. We wiped out their nuclear facilities. That's the end of the story. We don't want to hear any more about, they had some secret chamber that we didn't know about. It's like, okay. So hopefully we have a fine point on the Iran nuclear program and it's over. And we get a peace deal out of this. And then that'll be the end of it. And again, have faith in President Donald Trump. He is the right man to lead us in this moment, and you can't jump ship on him. He is the commander in peace, and I believe it. So I pray for President Donald Trump. I continue to pray for our country. Grateful to have Dinesh D'Souza on the podcast. I hope you guys will come back Thursday. I got Senator Schmidt scheduled to join me. So bring it right back here on Thursday on Rumble. I'm looking forward to it. I got a quick one here for you. Praying for our world and our country here. God bless you parents and you listeners out there. God bless our police, first responders. God bless our military, our veterans. God bless America. And I'll catch you guys on Thursday.
You're listening to the Alec Lake Show. The future is family.